What if your child is smart enough to succeed in school and completely unprepared for life? It's an uncomfortable question, but every day parents tell me some version of the same thing. My child is brilliant, but something is missing. They obey, but they don't understand. They achieve, but they have no direction. They can answer any question, except the ones life actually asks. We've been taught to measure our children by the wrong ruler. We track grades. We celebrate test scores. We feel reassured when the report card is full of high marks. And then one day, that same high achieving child freezes in front of a real decision, falls apart under real pressure, or follows the crowd straight into something they knew was wrong. And we're left wondering how someone so smart could handle life so poorly. Here is the truth most parents are never told: intelligence and wisdom are not the same thing. They are not even built in the same part of the day. Intelligence is largely built at school. Wisdom is built at home, in small, ordinary moments that don't look like teaching at all. And there's real neuroscience behind this distinction. Researchers have actually begun mapping what they call the neurobiology of wisdom, and they found that the traits that make up wisdom, sound decision making, emotional regulation, the ability to handle uncertainty, pro-social judgment, run through specific brain circuits in the prefrontal cortex. Wisdom is not a vague, fluffy idea. It is a developed capacity of the brain. And like any capacity, it grows through practice, or it doesn't grow at all. So today I'm not going to give you 10 random tips. I'm going to show you the actual gap between a smart child and a wise child across the real situations your child will face and the specific home habit that builds the wise one. Stay with me, because the fourth gap is the one almost every loving, well-meaning parent accidentally widens. Let's look at the two children. Picture a situation. A child is about to do something: break a small rule, make a risky choice, follow a friend's bad idea. The smart child knows the rule. They can recite exactly what they're supposed to do. But knowing the rule and understanding why it exists are two completely different things. And in the moment that matters, only one of them holds. The wise child doesn't just know the rule, they can think through what happens next. They've developed cause and effect reasoning, the ability to follow a choice to its consequence before they make it. And that capacity is the difference between a child who behaves only when watched and a child who makes good choices on their own. Here's the home habit that builds it. Most parents give instructions. Do this, don't do that, stop that. Instructions produce obedience, not thinking. Wise parents replace some of those instructions with a question. Why do you think that's a good idea? What do you think will happen if you keep going? Research on children's reasoning shows that asking a child to explain their own thinking builds higher order cognitive skills in a way that simply telling them never can. You're not lecturing, you're handing them the thinking instead of doing it for them. And a child who has practiced thinking through their own choices becomes an adult who can think through the ones you'll never be there to supervise. Now picture a moment of choice, not a huge one, an ordinary one. The smart child in many homes has never actually had to make many decisions. Their day is managed, scheduled, and chosen for them, often by a parent who can do it faster and better. They know a great deal, but they've rarely practiced the act of choosing. The wise child has been making small decisions for years: what to wear within limits, how to arrange their space, how to solve a small problem before an adult swoops in. And those small decisions are not trivial. They're reps in a gym. Neuroscience shows that the act of deciding strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the brain's command center for judgment and self-control. A child who never practices small decisions doesn't magically become good at big ones. They arrive at adulthood with a decision-making muscle that was never trained. The home habit here is simply to let your child decide more, within safe limits. Hand them real small choices and let them own the outcome. Every micro decision today is a rehearsal for the consequential decisions of their future. The goal is not to control every choice perfectly. It's to let them build the muscle while the stakes are still small. Here's a situation every parent knows. A child is overwhelmed, angry, frustrated, in tears over something. The smart child may be brilliant at math and still completely lost inside their own emotional storm, because no one ever taught them what the storm was. They were told to stop crying, to calm down, to not be so sensitive, and so they learned to suppress the feeling without ever understanding it. And a feeling you can't understand is a feeling that runs you. The wise child has been given the one tool that changes everything: the names of their emotions. Instead of stop crying, they've heard over and over, I can see you're feeling frustrated. Tell me why. And that small shift does something the research is clear about. Naming an emotion actually reduces its intensity. It moves the experience from the reactive part of the brain toward the thinking part. A child who can name what they feel can begin to manage it. And emotional regulation, remember, is one of the core circuits the wisdom researchers identified. The home habit is to label feelings instead of dismissing them. Not to fix the feeling, not to talk them out of it, just to name it and let them know it's allowed. Wise children don't suppress their emotions, and they don't drown in them. They understand them. That understanding is built one named feeling at a time. This is the fourth gap, and it's the one I most want you to sit with. Because the parents who widen it are almost always the most loving ones. Picture a child struggling with something difficult, a hard problem, a frustrating task, a challenge that's making them grunt and sigh and want to give up. What does the loving parent do? They step in, they help, they fix it, they smooth the path. Because watching your child struggle is genuinely painful, and helping feels like love. But here is the hard truth: struggle is not suffering, struggle is brain development happening in real time. Psychologists even have a name for it: desirable difficulty. The productive effort through which the brain actually builds new capability. And every time a parent rescues too early, they don't spare their child. They quietly interrupt the exact process that was about to make their child stronger. The smart child whose every difficulty was removed grows into someone who falls apart the first time life refuses to remove one. The wise child was allowed to struggle, to try, fail, and try again, and so they built the single most important life skill there is: the ability to stay standing when something is hard. The home habit is the hardest one on this list, because it asks you to do less. When your child hits a difficulty that is safe to sit in, pause before you rescue. Let them wrestle with it. Offer encouragement, not solutions. Let them experience the deeply important discovery that they can get through hard things on their own. That discovery is worth more than any answer you could hand them. Here's the next situation. A child makes a mistake, forgets their homework, mismanages their time, breaks a small commitment. In a lot of homes, the parent's instinct is to either punish the mistake or prevent it from happening in the first place. Reminding, nagging, managing, protecting. The smart child, shielded this way, never quite connects their choices to their outcomes. The lesson stays abstract. The wise child is allowed to meet the natural consequence. They forgot the homework, so they face the teacher. They wasted their time, so they feel the pressure of the deadline they created. Not cruel consequences imposed by a parent, the real ones that life itself provides. And research shows children learn far faster when the consequence is naturally connected to the action than when it arrives as a lecture or a punishment. The home habit is to let life teach, where it's safe to. Resist the urge to engineer away every consequence. When your child makes a low-stakes mistake, let them feel the honest result of it. And then be there, warm and supportive, to help them make sense of what happened. Wisdom grows when a child experiences reality, not when they're protected from it. There are a few more gaps worth naming quickly, because each one has a home habit behind it. The wise child has had quiet in their life. In a world of constant screens, noise, and stimulation, they've been given daily moments of silence. Time to think, to be a little bored, to let their own mind work. Deep thinking and self-awareness grow in quiet. And a child who is never quiet rarely becomes a reflective adult. The habit: build small pockets of silence into the day. No screen, no noise, just space to think. The wise child reflects. At the end of the day, they've been asked, what did you learn today? What would you do differently? This builds metacognition, thinking about thinking. And research with school-age children shows that these reflective prompts measurably strengthen the executive function circuits behind self-control and reasoning. Most children live on autopilot. The habit of reflection is what turns ordinary experience into actual wisdom. The wise child contributes. They've been given real responsibility, helping at home, caring for others, solving real problems, not just praise for their achievements. This builds accountability and a sense of purpose that grades never can. The habit, let them be genuinely useful, not just successful. And the wise child has watched wisdom up close. This is the hardest truth of all. Children's brains are wired to imitate the adults around them. How you handle stress, how you make decisions, how you treat people. They become far more what you do than what you say. Which means the deepest habit isn't something you do to your child at all. It's who you are in front of them. So here is the whole thing, in one line. A smart child knows what to say. A wise child knows when to say it, why to say it, and whether to say it at all. A smart child knows the answer. A wise child knows what to do when there is no answer. When the situation is new, the pressure is real, the right choice is unclear, and there's no teacher and no parent in the room to tell them what's correct. That moment, and your child will face thousands of them, is not handled by intelligence. It's handled by wisdom, by the thinking, the judgment, the emotional steadiness, and the resilience that were built quietly at home across 1,000 ordinary days. School will build your child's intelligence. It does that job well, and it matters. But the gap between a smart child and a wise one, that gap is yours to close. It won't be closed by a curriculum. It'll be closed by the questions you ask at dinner, the decisions you let them make, the feelings you help them name, the struggles you let them have, and the person you are while they watch. Your goal was never to raise a child who impresses people. It was to raise one who can navigate life, who can think clearly, choose wisely, feel deeply, and stand firm when things get hard. None of that is built in a single conversation. It's built in small moments, repeated daily, most of which won't feel important while they're happening. The why question instead of the order, the decision you let them make, the feeling you named instead of dismissed, the struggle you let them finish, the quiet you protected, the example you set. Start small. Start with one. Because one day your child will stand in a moment where you are not there. And the only thing guiding them will be the wisdom you built into them, quietly, while they were growing up right in front of you. If this gave you a new way to think about what you're really raising, share it with a parent who wants to raise a wise child, not just a high-scoring one. Leave a comment telling me which of these gaps you're going to work on first. Subscribe, because here we're not just raising children who do well on tests. We're raising thinkers who can handle a life. I'll see you in the next one.